Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Flip the Script podcast. I'm so pumped for today. Excited to have my good friend Brandon Stewart with us. Come on, Brandon is you're a great husband. You're a great dad. You're a great leader.
Come on, say more. Say more.
You lead an amazing organization. You love Jesus. You got great style. You live in Seattle. Tacoma. Which one is it?
Most of those things are true.
Yeah.
We'll leave maybe good style off or something like that.
No, come on. You said the Northwest is the best place in the world to live. Is that true?
Tell me, show me someplace more beautiful.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of places with less rain.
That has nothing to do with beauty. Come on.
That's true. It's, I don't know.
I have a dark, moody soul, so it just works for me.
So it works.
It just works.
Well, I'm so excited about today and continuing as a community. Everybody, if you've been listening for a while now, we're so glad. And I want to encourage you, share the podcast, leave a comment, subscribe, invite your friends, because we really do believe that when you change your thoughts, you change your life. And so here with Brandon today, we're looking forward to, as we're in this new year, continuing to make sure we're going the right direction and following through with what would be the best way to fulfill our plan for the year. But before we jump into all that, the other Brandon with us today. Come on, our host, Brandon, take it away.
Come on, yes, the other Brandon. I love that. Yeah, this is episode number 4 of season 1. Super excited. And Brandon Stewart, we like to have some fun at the start of each episode. We just to kick things off.
So today, I'm terrified right now.
Today, we're going to play a game called 5 Random Questions. I'm going to ask you guys 5 questions that are completely unrelated about random things that people don't normally talk about. Are you ready?
By the way, so you're going to go first because that just makes it better.
No, I told you already. I'm not interesting.
You're so interesting. All right.
It's about to get very interesting. All right, here we go. First question. What is the weirdest food combination you enjoy?
Oh, the weirdest food combination?
Yeah. So I'll just throw something out there that I eat that maybe is kind of weird. I like to eat horseradish mustard on Triscuit crackers. By themselves.
I just put peanut butter with everything.
Yeah.
I love peanut butter.
With eggs?
Anything.
Yeah.
It works with any food to me.
Yeah. That's great.
I don't know.
That's kind of gross. That's fantastic.
That's gross. Okay, but number 2, if you had to live as an animal for 1 year, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, a lion.
Yeah. That's all I have is a lion as well, because it's the king.
Yeah, that's a very Christian answer for both of us.
Is there a better animal than a lion?
There's not.
Okay,
there's not.
I think it's.
I'm not picking a llama or something.
I don't know. Maybe a domesticated animal you can live inside.
Oh my gosh, that would be terrible.
No.
Anyway, all right. Number 3. What is the least amount of money you would accept to swallow a dead worm?
I think I would probably do it for no money, just depending on the context. I think that if it was, worth it.
No, nothing. So I am very, very risk averse.
Oh.
I have no need
This is where we're different.
Yes, I have no need to do wild and crazy things for ego, pride, whatever. So I'm at straight, give my ministry $1 million and I'll eat pretty much whatever you want me to eat. Until then, I'm probably out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good.
Well, I heard $1 million. All right. Here we go.
There we go.
All right. Number 4. If you had to smell like one kind of food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Wow.
If I had to smell like it?
I have no idea.
I would say chocolate chip cookies, because a warm chocolate chip cookie, that's just the best smell. And I would like to smell like that for my entire life.
I have no idea. I hate the smell of food for the most part. So
just pick a fruit.
Coffee.
Oh, there you go.
That's so good. Great answer.
I win. I think that wins.
I don't even know what to say.
This is fantastic.
All right.
I think I do smell like coffee all the time. So I think we're just going to go with that.
When I wake up in the morning and I smell coffee, like from downstairs, I'm like, this is such a great day. Love it.
Oh my God.
All right.
That's true.
Last one, and I do feel good about this one. So it's February at the time of the release of this episode. So it feels appropriate to ask this question. Rom-coms, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. I love them.
I love rom-coms. We have that.
Oh my gosh.
About the rom-coms all the time.
I'll watch them all the time.
Yes. So good. That's a good international flight. You know, when I fly to the
Absolutely.
Philippines, I watch so many rom-coms. It's incredible. That's how I stay up on those. It's great.
That's incredible. I didn't know you both shared the love of
It's
rom-coms.
the
That's
key
so
to
great.
good leadership. For
But
those of you listening.
early 2000s, late 90s ones are great.
Yeah, they haven't made a lot of good ones lately.
There's no good ones.
Yeah, so totally agree.
Well, there you go. 5 random questions about completely unrelated things. Thank you for participating in that game. We're going to jump into today's discussion, though, talking about this concept of following through. And so, Michael, take it from here.
Yeah, so one of the things really wanted to talk about today, help people with, I hope help me with, even as we talk about this. Last episode, we talked a lot about habits and kind of making sure that we were set up this year to be successful.
Right.
Wanted to talk about a little bit today, kind of covering a lot of areas when it comes to the concept of follow through and shaping your life as it's going to change. And things haven't been going for many people today already as how they thought they would go as this year has started.
Right.
Kind of just jump in. Where would you start with? Here's some keys you feel like to make sure we're on the right track to follow through.
First of all, I have to say, I love you and Megan. I love your church so much. I love your intentionality. I love your voice. And I love your adventurous spirit. You are always up for anything.
I appreciate
it. And man, we love what you're building here. And I mean, man, when I think of this last season that we've been walking through, which I'm kind of over now that we're in a new year. I'm kind of over talking about this season that we're in.
Right.
We're on like year 3 of it. So I'm pretty sure that it's here to stay for a bit.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that we need to like get comfortable with kind of the climate, love it or hate it. It is our reality right now for living and for leading. And I think we could try to avoid it and be unsuccessful, or we can embrace this season, for everything that it is. But one thing I know this season has done for me is it's caused me to have to recalibrate a bit.
Yeah.
And the space that this season has brought me back to has been rhythms. For context, I've been in the same church my whole life. So 40 of my 41 years on planet Earth have been in one church under one pastor and one vision. Last summer, I crossed 20 years in full-time ministry.
So
and
amazing.
Other than a brief time away, a couple years away, pretty much been on the same team the whole time.
Yeah.
So I love the church. I love our team. But I will say this, you don't stay planted in the same church for 40 years or on the same team for 20 years because it's easy.
That's so true.
You don't stay because you always agree all the time, or no one ever ticks you off or something like that. You stay because of follow through.
Yeah.
And you stay because of commitment, and you stay because of alignment. And so I'm not an expert on a lot of things, but one thing I have done is I've stayed put, where God has planted me.
What do you think are some of those things, maybe even just if there's been more things over the last couple of years that you've seen, but we could go back, that these are the most common obstacles you see that cause people to quit, that cause people to not follow through on what we knew they should have been doing?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you have to anchor your life into God's call and God's plan for your life. That has to be the place of your anchor.
Right.
If it is somewhere else, you're going to be tossed about in the wind and by the storms and by the rain. But if your life is anchored in the plan and purpose of God for your life, that just has to be it first. And I think we have to understand too, God's plan and God's call is not flippant over your life. Mm-hmm. There is a primary call to the life of every believer, and then there's an individual call. The individual call between us can vary, of course. We have unique history, gifting, whatnot. But the primary call in all of our lives is to be planted in the house of God, to build the church, of course, calling over our life as husbands, dads, or moms, that we have a primary call, and that doesn't change regardless of the season, regardless. So to me, I have just, again, in this season, anchored myself back in the Lord, back in the Word, reminded myself of my primary calling, that the seasons have changed, and even my ministry over the course of the years has changed quite a bit. That's my individual calling, but my primary calling hasn't changed.
That's so good.
And why would I drift, or why would I try to reinvent what God has established over my life? The places where He's planted me, the authority He's tucked me under. Until God moves me, I serve in all of those spaces as if I'm always going to be there.
Right. What that makes me think of is over the course of this time, how much we have seen, and I think we've seen it in pastors, and leaders of organizations where they have forgotten that primary calling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we see now this giving into so many different ideologies and so many thoughts that people aren't following through on what they were supposed to be following through in the first place.
Well, one of the greatest days of recalibration for me in recent memory was the day of all of the first COVID shutdowns. And you're welcome, Washington State. My state led the charge. We were the first ones. I remember when the first news article came out that I saw that they were considering limiting church attendance. I texted my pastor. He hadn't heard it yet. I think I was the first one to deliver the news. I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. Well, my ministry at the time, I mean, we were at 6+ churches a month. My life, I lived my life on airplanes and working with local churches everywhere. Loved that season. Ministry was thriving, was booming. And in 24 hours, my entire schedule collapsed.
Yeah.
I mean, I went from full throttle, 100 miles an hour to absolutely nothing. Every invite necessarily, of course, canceled. And I remember for a couple of days having whiplash and having to recalibrate and going, where do I go now? And I had a moment of fear. I had a moment of worry, but I said this to the Lord in my prayer. I was standing in my office at the church, pacing back and forth, just thinking about it for a minute. And I said, God, I don't want to worry about my schedule. I don't want to worry about my life. I don't want to worry about my family. I commit all that to your hands.
Yeah.
Here's the agreement I'm going to make with you.
Yeah.
Is if I stay true to my calling of building the church, I am believing you're going to take care of me.
That's so good.
Like if I take care of your church, I'm believing for you to take care of me.
Yeah.
And so that was me returning to my primary calling. My primary calling is to change the world by building and equipping the local church. On my life, that is the mandate God has placed. And when the storm hit, when the shutdowns hit, I returned to my primary calling.
Right.
And I anchored there. And what's amazing is within about 72 hours, without me having to make one phone call, Pastor Michael, we had people surround our ministry, sow into our ministry. It was like we were sustained by the provision of God in that season. And I spent the next weeks just being full on busy, doing everything I could. It was like the ship was filling with water, and I was just taking any bucket I could to try to get water, out of the ship. And we just felt God breathe on our family and on our ministry because we returned back to the primary calling he had. So I know that sounds really simplistic, but I think sometimes we don't have that anchor. And I don't know how you follow through if you don't have that anchor. The situations of your life are going to change. The opportunities are going to come and go. By the way, opportunity is not an indicator of God's calling on your life. If you're halfway talented or halfway gifted, you are not going to lack for opportunity.
So good.
Just because a door opens does not mean you're supposed to walk through it.
Megan and I were just talking about this the other day, that there's this unfortunate common language that gets used by Christians that we say, man, the Lord is just blessing my life. The Lord is just blessing your life because something good happens or because a door opens. Now, I know the scripture, every good gift comes from the Father up above, but because we have bought into this sort of, like you just said, this lie that if something good happened in my life, it was this intentionality where the Lord opened this blessing, so to speak, to say, take this right now. I believe it's caused a lot of people to not follow through in the areas they're supposed to be in and get misguided because this isn't really so to speak, what you just said, but we've, for some reason, hated to believe that God's calling on our life will include a time that sometimes feels a little bit hard. It feels like this isn't really, everybody isn't knocking down the door of our ministry, so to speak, and inviting us to be there. I heard John Tyson say recently, right before COVID hit, he was preaching in Hawaii. He said, I experienced really the presence of God. And this is, if anybody knows who he is, author, pastor, conference speaker, experienced the presence of God like he never has before. He's like, Lord, you're really going to bring revival. Like it's getting ready to happen. Literally, the nation shuts down the next day. And it just messes everything up, right? So we're in this moment of where God was blessing, boom, it stopped. And I think is an opportunity for us to go, the blessing of God on my life doesn't mean it's just pouring into everything good in my life right now.
This has helped a lot of leaders over the course of time when I've said this, so I'll share this. If this doesn't fit, you can edit this out. That's fine. But in terms of follow through, and I'm thinking, in 10 years, waking up and feeling like you were faithful.
Right.
That's really what you're talking about here, is faithfulness.
Right.
Being faithful to what God would have you do. There's 3 lenses through which you can look at your life. And number 1 is vision. Number 2 is opportunity. And number 3 is resources, in that order.
So good.
Best to least. Making decisions, first of all, through vision makes decisions based on the call of God on your life. What has God dropped in your heart, placed in your heart, to do for him, serve his kingdom. Next is opportunity. Opportunity is neutral. Opportunity is neither bad nor good. It just means an open door. It just means an opportunity. Sometimes opportunity can match vision. And when opportunity comes and matches vision you already have in your heart,
that's awesome.
It's really awesome.
Right,
it's really
right.
great. But sometimes opportunity comes and it can come before vision. And that's where you have to be really careful, is that if opportunity comes but you haven't ever really considered that path before, or you haven't really ever considered that thing, you need tremendous pause. You need tremendous prayer,
that's so good.
Wise counsel, multitude of counsel, because opportunity can lead you off course.
Yeah.
If it precedes vision.
That's so good.
But if it follows vision, it's beautiful. Now, then, of course, there's resources. That is making a decision because someone will pay you more, or going somewhere because if it helps your bottom line, which we all know is kind of lowest common denominator thinking, right? Now, the most beautiful scenario in life is when God gives you a vision. He opens up the opportunity and he fuels it with his resources and with provision. That's kind of checkmate, that you're walking in the blessing of God, the direction of God, when all 3 of those things line up. But if we get them out of order, you start to see why the Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God, and then all these things will be added unto you.
Do you feel like what you've seen with leaders, so with church leaders, maybe business leaders, people you've interacted with over the last couple of years, has there been more of almost a desire to put vision to the side, to go, I can't really let that be my focus right now. I need to be more focused on the opportunity resource side because of that sort of fear that God injected?
I think so. I think everything is recalibrated the last 18, 20, 24 months. And people at the beginning kept trying to get back to something, trying to get back to the opportunity to keep working on the thing that they were working on previously, without realizing things changed.
Right.
And doors closed in March of 2020. It took us a while to see it, but things really recalibrated quite significantly. And I think the leaders that have made it are the leaders that returned to primary calling, that got back to that place.
Yeah.
And the opportunity and the resources may look different now. My ministry in some ways looks quite different now, but I don't think you would say that. I think if you were to say to me, you're still on the same path you were, I think I'd say yes, because our vision has remained the same. The call of God has remained the same, but opportunity and resources have kind of adjusted.
Yeah.
But those aren't necessarily the primary indicator of God's directing and leading on my life anyways.
Right.
So I guess just talking about follow through, you got to know where your anchor is.
Right.
And I want to anchor myself in God's vision for my life, God's plan for my life, my primary calling first and foremost, and let the other things work themselves out along the way.
So kind of on that, then let's turn from big picture a little bit, if you will, and let's talk family for a moment, because I do believe you're a great husband and a great dad.
Thank you.
So over the course of the last year, you welcomed your second baby.
That's
but
right.
Not exactly in, kind of the time in the moment. And so as we were talking earlier, but also just conversations over the last year with you, a lot of things about your life changed and adjusted. So maybe just take a moment so that we can all learn a little bit about when the follow through process has to change, how to be adaptable, and kind of how you work.
Well, I'll give you the full story. And by the way, I blame you for all of this. It's all your fault, because we were here just before we found out we were pregnant. And
Virginia is for lovers. You literally fulfilled
I saw that at the airport.
Yeah, you fulfilled that calling.
Well, so our daughter, our 10-year-old, was here with us, and she was hanging out with your family, and she came home like intoxicated with this idea. She's an only child at the time, right? Intoxicated with this idea of a big family. And I was like, babe, you're just gonna have to pray for it. And apparently she did, because it was only weeks later,
oh my gosh,
we found out we were pregnant. So yeah, of course, we're turning 40, found out we're pregnant, 10-year gap. We had just finished selling everything we ever had. Like, we didn't own a baby sock or anything.
Oh my gosh.
And here we are back at the starting line. So it was a mix of shock and excitement.
Right.
You know, Lindsay actually though had quite a difficult and painful pregnancy. Just a few weeks in, she started experiencing an abnormal amount of pain. Of course, isolated, just didn't want to get sick,
Right.
you know, with COVID or anything else during that time. And so was home a lot. But then, as you're referencing, the day after Easter, we went to the hospital for an emergency delivery. Her pain had turned into early contractions and early labor that couldn't stop. And so our shock of a new baby was now the shock of an early delivery, 11 weeks early. So she was born at 29 weeks gestation, about 3.5 pounds, which we came to find out later was a big baby for the NICU, but still a very, very small baby. 51 days in the NICU at that point. So after we were only a couple months into travel and stuff, getting quote unquote back to normal after the COVID shutdown. And then we had pre-me shutdown of our ministry, which was another 4 or 5 months of recalibration after that.
Right. So how do you make sure that you are where you need to be as Brandon husband, Brandon dad, and Brandon who's doing a great job encouraging guys like me and other pastors and church leaders all across the country?
But both of those times, COVID and baby shutdowns in my life, I fought a crazy amount of urge to get back at it. I just constantly felt like I was missing out, or that for some reason what we had was going to dissolve, or like I just felt this incredible urge. And I'd wake up in the day going, okay, this is the week where I'm getting back to only to realize I had no strength, especially during the baby shutdown was harder.
Yeah.
We were physically tired. We were mentally tired. We were spiritually alive, but stretched and strained. Right. You know, that first week of seeing our daughter in the hospital and the medical condition she was born with and the procedures she had to have done, it taxed our faith. You know, it took everything we had. And, you know, I was struggling because I would see new parents on Instagram or people that we knew having babies, and a week or two later, they feel like, you know, the dad's back at work and they're back in a flow. I was like 4 or 5 months in struggling for strength.
Gosh.
And I realized we went through trauma.
Right.
We had to call it what it was.
Right.
And trauma responses are different than a non-trauma response. And we had to give ourselves permission to heal, permission to slow down. So I did something I have never done in ministry. I called my pastor who oversees our ministry activity and stuff, and I waved the white flag. I said, I can't do it right now.
Yeah.
So we have our conference coming up, and I've never done this to you before, and I don't plan to do it again very soon, but I'm tapped. I need to rest. I need out. And what I found, I was so just afraid of admitting that and afraid of getting to that point. And you know what I found is I found nothing but the protection of God, of my pastor, of our church just surround us.
Yeah.
He began to fill in gaps for us, meaning God and my pastor.
So
he just began to fill in gaps, surround us, gave us the cover we needed for a season. And I finally took some time to rest and recalibrate. And then going back to your point on follow through, as we've re-entered, because we're pretty much back at a strong pace now. Our daughter is 10 months old.
Yeah.
And we're pretty much back at a full pace. But I had to stagger that getting back. And I decided I was now this time building, I was going to build sustainably.
Yeah.
I was not going to try to do something for God I didn't have the team to do, the resources to do, or the margin and rhythm to do. And I decided I'm going to, whatever I start from this point on, because it all was at a, standstill. Whatever I start, I'm now going to do it in a sustainable, wise way. I'm going to run hard and I'm going to run fast, but I'm going to do it in a way that I could do it for 10 years if I had to.
Right.
And I can just tell you right now, our ministry, my life is so at peace, even though we're running fast again, we're just at peace and we're blessed because we're building in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
Not just trying to overdrive and take every opportunity as it comes.
What it makes me think of, and for something everybody can relate to, I'm relating to right now, is what I desire for this community is that we would know that we aren't throwing the white flag in with no hope.
No.
And your demonstration even of that, of just sharing that story, is you knew you had covering, you knew you had community. And really it's a safety net, not that
That's
you
right.
abuse. It's a safety net that actually keeps you strong,
Yep.
so that no matter what you walk through, you're able to stay on the path that you're supposed to be on.
Yep.
Which is my hope for my life and for everybody that's in our community.
Yep.
That there's no falseness or no like, hey, you just have to be super strong on your own and make sure you do great.
That's
It's
right.
that no, you can keep moving forward because you know you've got the people around you that when it
Yep.
does get super tough, they're
Yep.
gonna hold you up.
The other hope I would give and offer to people experiencing a season of opposition or recalibration is that this is a great time to stop some things and start some things.
Yeah.
It's kind of like opposition is like a changing room. If you're going to like a mall or something to try on clothes or whatever, you walk into the changing room wearing one thing. In the changing room, you take off what you came in with and you put on what you're going to exit with, right? You come out, you're the same person, but you come out wearing something different. You come out looking different. And so I got saying to myself during our shutdowns, it's in the changing rooms of life that Jesus changes us so we can change the world. It's
So good.
that there's something powerful that happens when you arrive at a moment. I need to leave some things behind.
Yeah.
But I need to embrace some things new. In fact, the one thing I came prepared with for this conversation today, I was looking this up when we were talking about this. I had done some research a while back as to the companies that we all interact with every single day of our lives that were born in times of opposition and recession. It's actually quite amazing how many great companies are born out of seasons like the one we're in right now as a nation.
Right.
There was a man in during the financial downturn that wanted to create connection at a university, and Facebook was born. 2 men couldn't find a hotel room in that season, so they rented a mattress, and Airbnb was born. A man couldn't hail a taxi during that season, so he hired a private car, and Uber was born. Thomas Edison launched General Electric right as the nation was heading into the Panic of 1893. The Panic of 1907, William Durant transitioned from horse-drawn carriage to motorized vehicle paid off, and he started General Motors. Walt Disney knew the nation needed a smile during the Great Depression, and Disney was incorporated. And in fact, its first full-length motion picture was released right after the Great Depression ended to kind of launch us into that
incredible
season. Apple got its start in 1975 during a downturn. And then again, when the dot-com bubble burst in 2000, Apple transitioned to create a portable music player, which was the iPod, and gave way to the iPhone. I could keep going. Microsoft, Trader Joe's, Hyatt, FedEx, HP, IBM.
So many
they were
companies.
all born in recessions. And you have to just see that sometimes God has to slow us down and get a hold of us so that we really ask ourselves what's most important, what's God asking me to do, what are some things I need to leave behind, what are some things I need to take on in this season. Great things can happen in the season, and your life could look different moving forward, but you're still the same. The call of God on your life is irrevocable. It hasn't changed.
Right.
And if you anchor yourself in that place, you can come out of this better and stronger in this current season, 2022, that we're in right now.
Love it. Anchor yourself, know your calling, be centered on what God's got for you. So,
Absolutely.
man, I'm encouraged. Thank you, Brandon, for just talking through some of this. And sharing part of your story. Love it. Love being with you.
Sorry to preach at you on the podcast.
No, it's great. I love it. I'm encouraged. I'm going to be better this year. So thank you for that. And believe all of our listeners will be too. It's awesome. Thanks again.
Awesome. Well, episode 4 is a wrap. We hope this was an encouragement to you and helps put you on the path to having your best year ever. And we would appreciate if you would share this out, tell your family and friends about this podcast. The reason we do this is to help people not settle in life and point them towards a better way to think and live. If you haven't already, we would love it if you would subscribe on whatever platform you're on right now. You'll get notified as soon as a new episode drops. We have more great content planned this year, and we will release a new episode at least once a month. You can also email questions and inquiries at info@flipthescriptlife.com. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.